it's just not normal, and it's not compatible with the norms of our democracy. And the sooner we wake up from this bad dream, the better.
So again, you talk about the peaceful transition of power, which actually did happen because Donald Trump did leave office.
Whoa, hold on. Let's rewind that back. Maybe I misheard. Okay, hold on. Let's give him a chance. So one thing that I've been noticing tremendously in the past, at least me paying attention like 4 years, is a lot of Republican commentators like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, you have the dude with the big ass forehead, like, individuals like those will continue to go to these college campuses. They'll go to these like, town hall type situations, and they're debating kids. You know what I'm saying? Like 19, 20-year-olds, individuals who are just, throughout their journey trying to figure out the political atmosphere. And even someone like myself, for the past 2 years, I've been really trying to dig a lot deeper than just the surface level. You know what I'm saying? So I would still consider myself fairly new when it comes to just anything political. So it's just kind of awkward to me, cowards like Ben Shapiro going to kids to try to score a quick W. You know what I'm saying? But when they go against someone who's on their level or even beyond, like a Destiny or Medi, they crumble. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't have that same type of steam or that same kind of energy they have when they're producing their videos or when they're debating, kids. They don't bring that same type of attitude. And what we're going to watch is Sam Harris. Once again, I just got put onto him. I watched a few of his videos earlier today. Seems like he's pretty decent. I kind of got to, figure out some things for myself to really get an opinion on him. But just with him talking to Ben Shapiro, which is how I found him, like he's putting a whooping on him for 11 minutes straight. Like, Ben had no great rebuttal at any point, and I'm trying to be unbiased as possible. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to like at least hear some sort of like credible rebuttal at any point, and he fails to do that. But I guarantee you, if this is some college setting where, the whole crowd is going to cheer, even if Ben Shapiro says he doesn't care if, thousands of innocent people are dying, he doesn't have that in these kind of situations. So what does he do? Like, he sounds like a complete idiot, So let's go ahead and let's watch for ourselves.
You've asked me essentially whether I think Trump is Orange Hitler, right? And I never have, and I've never taken those concerns entirely seriously. But I would point out that the leading scholars of fascism at this point, people like Robert Paxton, use the term in application to Trump, and it's not an empty epithet, right? It's not the same thing as saying that Trump is the next Hitler figure or the next Putin figure, right? I think the difference is that Trump is not ideological. Trump is in the Trump business. Trump just wants wealth and fame, essentially, and he wants power in order to secure those things. But I think there are very few people who think he wants to create the 1,000-year Reich. He wants to build condos and play golf. Right. We're talking about a game show host.
And it's funny, Ben Shapiro's like shaking his head vigorously, like, yeah, like that's not a compliment. That's not like something you should be like proudly like cheering on. Like the person you're voting for is all in all in it for himself. He would rather build a Trump Tower in Gaza, even if that means obliterating every Palestinian over there. Like, that's literally what he's agreed upon with that crazy old lady. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's nothing to be like, yeah, you're right. Like, stupid. That's what you are. Oh my goodness.
Right? Who got marketed for 12 years on television as a brilliant businessman, and half the country bought it. Right? And a quarter of the country has rallied to him like he's the Messiah, and another quarter is willing just to look the other way as he desecrates the most basic norms of our democracy. And the most important one, which he's desecrated, is not committing to a peaceful transfer of power. I mean, that is, from my point of view, the only thing you need to know about him to decide your vote in this election is that as a sitting president, he did not commit and would not commit, and still hasn't committed, frankly, to a peaceful transfer of power. And we didn't have a peaceful transfer of power, right? And so that is, I mean, just again, to default to sane conservative Republican or erstwhile Republican principles, Ronald Reagan singled this feature of our democracy out as the key feature. I mean, it is the thing that made us the shining city on the hill, to use his terms.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that people living in shithole countries, to use Trump's terms, envy in us is this peaceful transfer of power. It is a political miracle. And Trump's campaign, his continued status in the Republican Party as their frontrunner, is just a continuous desecration of that principle. And so from my point of view, everything hinges on that. And no, I don't think assassination attempts are the right remedy for that. Voting against him is the right remedy for that. And the reason why things didn't normalize over the last 4 years is not because Joe Biden was so woke, or Kamala Harris is now a woke Manchurian candidate who will govern like a blue-haired activist from Barnard. No, it's that Trump is still in our politics, and we don't have a normal conservative party. I mean, this again, to come back to things that you and I agree about. You and I could spend 2 hours here running down the far left and agreeing about, just how bizarre the identitarian moral panic has been on the far left. But the problem with Trump and Trumpism is that it seems to justify all of that, right? It adds fuel to all of that, and the reason why the panic is justified, frankly, and again, it extends to Trump's former allies, right? It extends to his former running mate, Mike Pence. I mean, Mike Pence has said that the American people deserve to know that Donald Trump asked me to be loyal to him, to put my loyalty to him over my loyalty to the Constitution.
And I must add, if anyone in that Republican Party had balls, it was Mike Pence. Like I'm pretty sure he knew what danger he was putting himself in, and even his family, going against Trump. And just understanding that portion, just that part alone, you forget everything else, every crazy other thing that Trump has said, did, or wanted to do. Just knowing that simple fact right there should raise red flags for you. Why would a vice president fear his life if he goes against his own president? That alone could make a movie. That alone should be looked at and studied by a lot more smarter people than me, because to me, that point right there is like, we got a problem. And if we don't fix that problem, it's only going to continue, because if someone like Trump got into office acting and saying the crazy things he's been saying the past 8 years, can you imagine somebody who's a little bit more competent and actually has a plan and talking like Trump? Like, that would be, to me, in my honestly, like, that would be game over. Trump is a useful idiot tool, so maybe that would be to his own detriment, but I'm just worried that we're going to continue to normalize this, and it's only going to get worse.
Right. That is political plutonium, right? And we should and the Republican Party should recognize it as such. But what we have in the Republican Party is, as I said, a cult of personality and a loyalty test. And you have people like J.D. Vance and even Elon Musk bending the knee in this loyalty test in the most abject way, asserting that they believe the big lie that he really won or might have won the 2020 election. And this is not, it's just not normal, and it's not compatible with the norms of our democracy. And the sooner we wake up from this bad dream, the better.
So again, you talk about the peaceful transition of power, which actually did happen because Donald Trump did leave office.
Whoa, hold on. Let's rewind that back. Maybe I misheard. Okay, hold on. Let's give him a chance.
You talk about the peaceful transition of power, which actually did happen because Donald Trump did leave office.
A peaceful transfer of power did happen. I swear these individuals are so hyped up on drugs. Like there's no other explanation. Like, the money can't be that good. Okay, if somebody paid me $20 million a month, then maybe I could warp my brain on not believing some things. But how can you sit there with a straight face and say it was a peaceful transfer of power? He's still literally saying he didn't lose and he was cheated and he should have won. He's still 4 years later. Even when he won the election, he's saying that some parts of it was rigged because he should have won the popular votes, which he didn't. He got smoked on. And he was still complaining about that. So, Ben, shut up. We don't want to hear you. You are not contributing anything to the conversation. Just be quiet. Oh, my God.
In January of 2021, and Joe Biden has been president mostly for the last 3.5 years, despite his mental ineptitude.
You cannot call January 6th a peaceful transfer of power.
Well, that's not when the transfer of power happens. People don't leave office on January 6th. People leave office on January 20th.
If Mike Pence had obeyed him,
they were certifying the election. They were certifying the slates from the states. That's a process. Everything just doesn't happen one day and this boom, the ex-president is leaving the White House while the new president is coming in. It's not that simple. It's a process to this thing. In one of the processes, they tried to insurrect. People died. People got hurt. Damage was done to property. People were tried. Why? How? Do not do that. No. Quit. Okay?
We
would have had a genuine constitutional crisis.
I agree with you, which is, I think, that why Mike Pence did the right thing. And I think that what Donald Trump, the argument that Donald Trump was making between November and January was morally and legally specious. But with that said, there was a peaceful...
Specious. Morally and legally specious. Bro, just say it was wrong. For Mike Pence to have done something right means that someone has done something wrong. Who is that someone and what did he do wrong? And is that wrong something that we should be trying to handle? Or, it's too late. We had, 2 years to try to nip that in the bud. And unfortunately, just with the speed of, social media and conversations, we haven't figured that out. So my fear is that if he loses again, it's only going to happen again or even worse. Thank God he's not in power, but we need to stop trying to pretend like it was just another day in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? No.
Transition of power.
But right now on the campaign trail, when Donald Trump is asked, and he was on Joe Rogan a few days ago, about the 2020 election, he still claims that he won the election. What do you make of that?
I obviously disagree with him. I don't think that he won the 2020 election. Also, this is part and parcel. I wish it weren't. But it is part and parcel of a reactionary divide that has plagued our politics since before Donald Trump, frankly. When Donald Trump won the election in 2016, we then spent 3.5 years of people claiming that Donald Trump was a Russian plant and had been bootstrapped into office by the Russians manipulating Facebook. This sort of election denialism is not. It is ugly. It is bad on both sides. It is. I won't even say.
And old boy, he gonna speak to it. But man, this has been the biggest talking point of any Republican. Well, blah blah blah. Both sides. Yap. Both sides. No. And I gotta admit, I used to be someone that said Republicans and Democrats are both bad. They're both, two evils on the same coin. Like, but then once you start, especially, just the craziness of Trump, like Trump is leading the charge on what's evil. Like Democrats don't have to do anything at this point because the Republicans are going so far down the hole. Like you can't in good faith say both parties are now the same or it's both crazy on both sides. No, because one is just leading the race, obviously by miles. So we can't use that terminology no more because it's clear. And the Republican Party is doing that on purpose, not on accident. They're going down this hole on purpose, full throttle. So you're missing me with the whole both sides thing. Don't do that. It doesn't work in this conversation no more.
Say that
it
what
doesn't
Democrats
exist on both sides.
That's not true. I mean, that's not. If Donald Trump wins this election, I promise you will see election denialism on the left. That is incredibly similar to what you've seen from Donald Trump.
I wanted to ask you that, and this is a question for you. I'm not going to filibuster, Ben. I just want to ask you, if on election day we have a clear result, right? So there's a landslide in the swing states, and someone really wins, right? If I told you that the losing candidate denied the results of the election and simply would not accept a loss, and even appealed to their most fanatical supporters to come into the streets and just obviously provoked violence on the part of the mob, right? And said, and when asked, what about the Constitution? This candidate said, to hell with the Constitution. We don't have a country anymore. Which candidate am I conceivably talking about?
Well, I mean, I think that, given Trump's rhetoric in 2020, obviously what you're talking about is Donald Trump. I don't think that's how it'd be phrased by Kamala Harris.
Wow. I mean, even that admission alone, that should bring some pause. Like, yeah, like not even close. Any Democratic senator, like someone in an actual position of power, not some Looney Tunes off of Twitter or Facebook. I ain't talking about those weirdos. I'm talking about someone who can actually try to F up some things if they wanted to. You're not going to hear that from an AOC, from an Ilhan Omar or Bernie Sanders. Nancy Pelosi, you're not going to hear that from him. You're probably going to hear some, he's not fit to be president or he shouldn't have been president or whatever stupid thing that they want to say. But they're not going to say he rigged the election and he did not win. Kamala Harris won. You're not going to hear that.
I think that the way they're phrased by Kamala Harris is more subtly.
There's a chance that Kamala Harris, if she loses in a landslide, you think there's a chance that she will not accept the results of the election?
Forget about a landslide. How about a close election?
Into the streets?
How about a close election? How about a close election? Forget about a landslide because a landslide
the landslide just makes it perfectly clear. I just want
what he's trying to Ben, you know this. You're smarter than me, okay? So if I understand his question and his premise on what he's trying to explain to you, I'm pretty sure you understand. He's talking about even in a landslide victory for Kamala Harris, he still is going to deny it. He's still going to say it was rigged. He's just going to say it was rigged by bigger numbers. So if he's going to say he lost, even if it's a landslide victory, what makes you think he won't complain about it even if it's close? But that's Ben, that's the point. That is the point. He's going to deny it regardless. If something happened to Trump to where he can't run for president, he will still say that he ran or that he won. Jesus Christ, man.
I'm telling you that.
Why the necessity for that sort of clarity in an election that's 50-50? Why not actually pick a plausible scenario? The most plausible scenario is that she loses in a very tight election.
It's all too
and then
plausible.
She says there's been voter suppression, and then she suggests.
It's all too plausible. Ben, it's all too plausible because currently the chance that there will be a landslide in the swing states is about 40%, even though we're at 50-50 between the two candidates. According to Nate Silver, there's a 40% chance that one of them runs the table in the swing states, right? So it's
for sure that would be an electoral college landslide. We're not talking about a popular vote landslide in any case.
No, right. So I'm talking about a clear result, right? Where no allegations of fraud are plausible.
Okay, so the most obvious sort of rhetoric that would be used along those lines would be Trump's. And then the rhetoric that would be used on the other side if Trump wins would be that Trump has corrupted the system. The system has been so corrupted that people weren't able to vote properly in places like Georgia, which has been the claim that there was Jim Crow 2.0 in Georgia for years. There would be claims that Donald Trump was paid off by the billionaires, that there was foreign interference in the election. There would be all of these claims, and they would float around. Donald Trump has...
I mean, a really good claim is Elon Musk paying people millions of dollars or $1 million to sign a petition. As long as you're registered to vote, then you can possibly win that money. So, I mean, even some legal scholars, obviously smarter than me, has said that that's breaking rules. Let Kamala Harris do anything even close to that, it would be World War III automatically. You know what I'm saying? So, like, let's not sit here and pretend that, once again, it's going to be just as crazy on the Democratic side, like it's going to be regardless of how big of a victory it might be on Republican side. Come on, Ben. Let's do a little better than that.
This is my original claim, Sam, is that Donald Trump is very obvious in his excesses. Democrats and the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris are much more, I would say, much more subtle in their excesses. But those excesses are no less dangerous for being more subtle. In fact, in some ways, I think they are more dangerous for being more subtle.
And it's weird. And once again, I apologize for just pausing, but I mean, I gotta get this off my chest. All right. If I don't get this off my chest, I'm not gonna sleep well tonight. I'm just gonna have dreams of me chasing Ben Shapiro down just a tunnel, a forever, just never ending tunnel. And I'm going to be trying to be chasing him down. All right. He knows he can't argue on Trump's stupidness and his crazy rhetoric. So what's the best thing that he can do? Bring the Democratic Party down to his level and say, look they're both the same. So if you're saying Trump is an issue in an issue to democracy, well, look at the Democratic Party. They're just as crazy. But we know that's not reality. But that's the only way he can bring this conversation back on a leveling meter here. Because if it's just based on reality, you can't defend the Republican and Trump's and their craziness. You can't do it. You sound like you didn't go to college. You didn't go to high school. That's the kind of argument those kind of people make. But Ben, obviously, smart guy, but he knows he's not going to win that conversation.
And you can't use a phrase like no less dangerous. Hillary Clinton conceded in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. That is less dangerous than this continuous provocation.
Sam, I just disagree with you. I disagree with you. I think that the attempt by members of the media, by Hillary Clinton, who herself said that Donald Trump was illegitimately elected based on Russian interference in the 2016 election, was highly damaging.
How long did she say that for? How long did she say that for? Does she still say that?
I mean, she will. Yes, actually, she will still claim openly that there was manipulation that took place during that is true. That there was manipulation during the 2016 election.
She says the sane thing to say is that there is continuous foreign interference in our elections, right?
But that's always been
that's
the case.
The double standard, Sam. Now you're proposing a double standard.
No, but
when Hillary says it, it's totally subtle and fine, and when Trump says it in the most obvious, foolish way, then it's totally different.
Ben,
Sam, go ahead.
Come on, Ben. All right. What Hillary would be saying, and honestly, I don't even know anyone who is asking for Hillary to speak or like purposely trying to find her to get her 2 cents. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe, that's for other folks, but I really don't care what she says today for sure. But one thing that is factual and that a lot of Democrats would be saying is that there is outside interference with our elections way before Trump. So that's factual, but what Trump is claiming that literally the Democratic Party and other institutions are stealing the election from him. Those are two different arguments here. And one of those whack arguments have no legs to stand on. There's no proof. So those are two different arguments here. Come on now.
You're just missing the relevant details here.
That's a nice way for saying like you don't know what you're talking about. You're missing the relevant details. I'm gonna start using that one.
One thinks that there is continuous foreign interference in our elections. Very few people at this point think that it has been decisive and that it was decisive in 2016. I mean, the problem in 2016, it was a much bigger problem, that the internal division was real, and that whatever Russia tried to do on Facebook was amplifying very real divisions that exist in our society, which we should worry about. But I'm not in contact with any Democrats, and I talked to a lot of them at this point, who have burned any fuel over even weeks, much less months or years, worrying that Trump's first term was totally illegitimate because the election was hacked and I mean what really happened. I mean there were things that seemed decisive that one could regret, like Comey opening the email investigation 10 days before the election and that functioning as effectively as a kind of October surprise, right? I mean nothing came of it, but it seemed decisive in terms of her poll results in those last weeks. But I mean, her loss was overdetermined, and most sane Democrats recognize that. What you do not have in the Democratic Party is a cult of personality around anyone and a series of loyalty tests. I mean, again, we're so far from the actual ground truth here. I mean, the ground truth is that we know at this point that there were Republicans in Congress, right, who would have voted to impeach Trump after January 6th, but they didn't because they were afraid for their lives. They were afraid that someone in the MAGA cult would come and kill them or members of their families, right? We know this from Mitt Romney, and we know it from Liz Cheney, too. This is not normal, and it's not happening on the Democratic side, right? This is a descent into, if you don't like the term fascism, something very much like fascism. I mean, I would say that this is fascism punching a gaping hole in our democracy.
Now, I would love to hear Ben equate anyone on the Democratic side to what Sam Harris just said. There is not, I would say, the only figure that a lot of people would rally behind and extremely support, and still wouldn't even come to how people are just, in a cult a relationship with Trump, is someone like a Bernie Sanders. You know what I'm saying? If Bernie Sanders said, hey, I'm running for 2028, I will be there. Day one. Trust me, I will be there. And I think there's millions of other folks that would do that. But that comes no close to the individuals willing to say the craziest things, do the craziest things on the behalf of Trump. It's not even close. But I would love to hear Ben point someone out like that. But of course he's not.
And it is the effect of Trump's demagoguery. His
Sam,
style of politics.
You're saying fascism is punching a gaping hole in our democracy, and this is solely due to Trump. And yet you also say that you would not support Kamala Harris if she, for example, stopped the certification of the election. And so my question remains, if Trump is such a grave threat to democracy, then why aren't you treating it that way? Voting isn't enough. I don't treat Kamala Harris as that sort of threat to democracy.
Well,
I think that Kamala Harris is a threat to many of the institutions.
I'm not going to burn down the village. I'm not going to burn down the democracy in order to save it, right? So I'm not in favor of political assassination.
But your argument is that it's ending under Trump. But your argument is that it's ending under Trump.
I can well imagine that our institutions are strong enough to weather a second Trump term, right? I don't think we're going to be. It's not going to be the Third Reich. And again, I don't think he has those kinds of aspirations, because he's such a small figure in the end, right? He's not a man of ideas on any level, right? So as far as I can tell, he believes almost nothing. But the crucial...
Ben Shapiro's face, wait, what? Yes, Ben. Yes, you are smarter than Trump. Okay, It's crazy, and I somewhat agree with Sam Harris. He believes that our institutions and our democracy is strong enough for a second Trump term. If that's true, all right, cool. I actually hope so. But me personally, I don't want to take that chance. And that's why we need to do what we need to do and vote. And obviously vote for Kamala Harris, obviously. But for Ben to try to say, like, well, why don't you do all you can to stop him if he's such a threat to democracy? Because it's like he's trying to trap Harris into saying, well, like, you know, maybe we should like, no, Ben, that's what Republican idiots would believe. And that's the same thing that Trump has been telling his followers, is that you're not going to have in America no more. Your lives, everything that you built, your family, your businesses, your life is going to be in danger if these Democrats get into office. That's what Trump has been saying. And unfortunately, his believer or his supporters believe that. But unfortunately, you know, Democratic voters are a little bit smarter than that. We're not going to burn down the whole house just to, you know, prevent, you know, X, Y, and Z person into the White House. We're going to do what we can legally to try to prevent that. But, you know, I guess to each his own.
Problem for me is that, you know, he doesn't seem to recognize that we have an interest in the maintenance of world order, right? He's a completely transactional figure. He cares about his relationships, right? And I think he probably cares about his relationships to foreign leaders to a degree that could border on treason in certain circumstances. But I mean, it's just insane that we had a president in him who said he trusts Putin more than our own intelligence agencies, right? And then he shared top secret information with Kremlin officials in the White House because he just couldn't keep his mouth shut. I mean, he was literally just, you know, gossiping about intelligence secrets related to ISIS. And the Israeli intelligence went crazy over this, right? I mean, he's not a serious figure.
Well, can I respond to that one?
Yes, and then I'll jump in.
Because this one's actually kind of fascinating. So now we shifted sort of topics into foreign policy and maintenance of world order and vision of the world. And this is the part where it seems rather incredible to me to support Kamala Harris as somebody who has a vision of a functional world order. The reality is that when we talk about Donald Trump, I think that in some bizarre ways, Trump and Harris are sort of photo negatives of one another, in the sense that Trump appears on the surface very unserious and he says a lot of bloviating and silly things, and then his foreign policy actually is rather serious. And Kamala Harris appears to sometimes, when she's not word salading, say serious things, and then her foreign policy is deeply unserious. So you'll have Donald Trump and he'll say stupid things or bad things.
So first off, his foreign policy is on your perspective. You know, there's no factual like what he did was better, because there's a lot of people, once again, who are a lot smarter than me, will say what Trump did actually agitated the situation even more between Israel and Gaza and the Palestinian people. Like, some will say that actually agitated the situation. So once again, that doesn't mean nothing. Just because you're for something that your party is submitting doesn't mean that it's factually better. That's just in your opinion. Just like if I said, if the Democratic Party, increased minimum wage to $18, I could say that's a good thing. But you might say that's a bad idea. But then we'll have to look at to the economists and see what they have to say. And just like I said, a lot of people who know a lot more than me say that what Trump did with the Abraham Accords and everything else only agitated the situation more. So, sorry, Ben, you kind of lost that one.
Or he will say something about ISIS to the Russians.
Or declassify top secret things in real time.
Or you could theoretically have the Biden-Harris administration staffed by people who full-on leak Israeli intelligence plans in the middle of a war to the Iranian government, such that it is printed. You may have such an intelligence crisis, in fact, that the Israeli government stops sharing intelligence with the United States specifically because every time they do, it seems to be leaked to the front pages of the New York Times. You could have a foreign policy that is so deeply in hock to America's enemies that in the middle of an existential war in which Israel, for example, is fighting 7 different border wars from 7 different sources. You have the Biden-Harris administration slow walking aid, threatening a cutoff in aid for supposedly humanitarian reasons, all while Kamala Harris seems signally unable to, for example, have a Sister Soldier moment with pro-Hamas supporters in her own party. Right? And then I'm supposed to feel that Donald Trump is the threat to...
Okay. We're not going to get into that in this video because I'm already... what is that, 34 minutes in? This would be an hour long if I have to get into this whole, Democratic Party is pro-Hamas. I'm a pro-Hamas. This foot. Go ahead, finish the rest. All right, Ben, come on now. Don't.
To world order. The reality is that Ukraine was invaded under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. It was not invaded under Donald Trump. Donald Trump, here's the thing about foreign policy that's really funny. Foreign policy is widely perceived as a game of nuance and complexity, when in reality, foreign policy is not all that complex and not all that nuanced. Very often it amounts to, if you cross this line, I'll punch you in the face, or I'll support people who do. And that actually is something that Donald Trump understood quite well, which is why he was able to achieve the best record in the Middle East of any president of my lifetime.
And what policy is that? What is that the name of the policy? Cross this line or I'm going to punch you in the face. What policy is that, Ben? Because I looked at Trump's 4 years of policies, legislation, executive orders, and I don't see anything that says cross this line or I'm going to punch you in the face. No, that's not a policy. You can't just try to, say some mean things on Twitter. Actually get some things on paper and get that passed by, reaching over the aisle, something bipartisan, and then you can have something to boast about. But just to be like, oh, Trump is a big boy, no, that's unfortunately not a policy, Ben. So, okay, whatever.
While the pseudo-sophistication of the Biden-Harris administration has achieved the most massive conflagration in the Middle East in my lifetime.
Okay, well then I'll ask you a not nuanced question.
Sure.
That should be simple enough to answer. Who do you think Putin wants to win the election?
I don't know who Putin wants to win the election. I'll be honest.
Man, oh my God. Man, I hate when people... That should not be allowed as an answer. If that's all you do is political, just learning every single day, I know the answer to that. And I do this part-time because I actually have a life out of this. And I know this. So Ben, who you think you're trying to fool? You know, Ben, stop it. Stop it. Hey, Ben, stop. Be honest and stop.
You have no intuitions about this?
No. And the reason that I have no intuitions about this is because I don't think that Donald Trump knows his own policy on Ukraine. I don't think Putin does either. Donald Trump is wildly unpredictable about Ukraine.
I mean, as you know, Putin is behind much of the chaos. You could argue.
Sam, who does Iran want to win the election
in the Middle East?
Iran has been actively intervening in the election on the side of Kamala Harris. We know this. The intelligence community has said this.
Man, I would have loved to. I'm going to have to watch the rest of that because anytime that Ben is in a serious conversation with somebody who can hold their own, is knowledgeable about all the dumb stuff that he's going to try to manipulate, misinformation, or just straight up lie about, they can call him out on that. And that's what I love. Like I said, I don't know Sam Harris that much. Don't crucify me in the comments for not knowing who he is. You know what I'm saying? I'm human. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot of things happening off this camera. You know what I'm saying? So I just would like to see more of people like Ben get off these college campuses and actually debate people who know some things. You know what I'm saying? So whoever Sam Harris is, hey, thank you. Congratulations. I enjoyed that 16 minutes, 31 seconds of straight whooping. Not one time did Ben have like a real challenging point or even a counterpoint to anything Harris has said. It's kind of funny, you know, but when he's on his show, man, like he's just saying all these crazy things, but he has nobody to rebut it. So it sounds good. You know what I'm saying? So, but once again, if you think anything that I said in this video is incorrect or you disagree, hit the Discord link down below so we can have that one-on-one talk, or let me know how you feel in the comments down below. And like always, let's have that conversation.